So maybe we could sit in a circle. Let's sit in a circle, and I will come up for the Torah reading after. It's probably best because it's a small group. But you can keep the chair in front of you if you want. But let's do a bit more like this. If you want to chair before you, be comfortable. That's really Okay, I'm going to.
Got to discuss the chair. I'm going to sit here. I need a chair to sit on one side.
Oh, I see. Yes.
Yeah. Okay. Maybe I'm going to sit here. Romain, tu peux me voir sur la caméra ici?
Sorry.
No, parce que the problem with so much she talks all the time, and we don't do anything. Yes, so you can't swear. You can't swear to the rabbi.
You realise the rabbi's history?
Yes, yeah.
Here we are.
Oh, brilliant. So we're all on the... Oh, there's nobody yet online. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. So we are going to do... Hello, Russell. Please have a seat. Yes, yeah, it's a special. So I will do the Torah service from the Bima, because I want to. I brought a text to study with you, a very interesting one, and let's do the first part of the service together. We don't need to stand, and it's relaxed today. Okay, page 117, 117. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Al Kodshecha Be'ir 117 Recha Ma Tovu Alecha Yaakov Alecha Yaakov Mishkenotecha Yisrael Ma Tovu Alecha Yaakov Alecha Yaakov, Mishkenotecha Yisrael, V'ani tefilati lecha, Adonai et ratzon, Elohim berov razdecha, Aneni be'emet Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Yisrael. Ma tovu alecha Yaakov, alecha Yaakov, mishkenotecha Israel. We thank you, O God, for this new day, for morning sun and evening star, for flowering of tree and flowing of tide, for life-giving rains and cooling breezes, for the changing seasons, for the cycle of growth and decay, of life and death. We awake and behold a new day. O God, renew us unto life. Teach us to recognize your presence in creation. Grateful for your gifts, may we dedicate all our powers to your service. And we turn to page 118, and we say the blessings together. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam pokeach ivrim. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam malbish arumim. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam matir asurim. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam zokef kefufim. Baruch ata Adonai Eloheinu melech haolam שעשה לי כל צורכי. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם הנותן ליעף כוח. ברוך אתה אדוני אלוהינו מלך העולם המעביר שינה מעיניי ותנומה מאף אפיי. I really like this morning blessings. So kind of it's very pragmatic, down to earth. It's about clothes, about being able to see, it's about being able to stand, it's about being able to wake up for new days. And sometimes you've got, also this idea of freedom. We create the third blessing in Hebrew, matir asurim, means who frees the captive. It's not who gives freedom, it's kind of the one who frees, who liberates people. I really like this idea, about Judaism, that it can be very spiritual, but it's also very down to earth, because we have to think about our lives in a holistic way, soul and body, because if one of them doesn't work, the other they can't work either. So there is this passage with the coming of day, which comes actually from the Dead Sea Scrolls, from Megillat HaSerachim, the manual of discipline of a community rule that the people in Qumran had. So Qumran was a small community. People there were withdrawn from the world. They thought that the world was a dangerous place, an impure place to be, so they created this kind of secluded community, and we know mainly them because they preserved hundreds and hundreds of texts which were found, the story, 47, 48 in the Dead Sea, along the cliffs of the Dead Sea. So we've got access to biblical texts, for example, that date back to the early first millennia, which is absolutely amazing, because before Qumran, the oldest biblical text we had dated back to the Middle Ages. So we've gone back by 900 years, which is really good for us to understand, how it works. So this is what they used to say in the morning. With the coming of day and night, I will enter the covenant of God. And when evening and morning depart, I will recite God's decrees. God Most High, you are my righteousness. You teach me goodness. You are the fountain of knowledge, the dwelling place of holiness, and the summit of glory. Eternal might and majesty are yours. I will choose whatever you teach me, gladly accepting your judgment. As soon as I move my hands and feet, I will praise your name when I go out and when I come in, when I lie down, when I rise up. When I rest on my bed, I will sing your praise, and in the company of my friends, I will praise you with the words of my mouth.
So, is the teaching via the rabbi?
No, it's a very interesting comment. It's not a rabbinic teaching, that. Because Qumran, so they disappeared in 68. I think they were destroyed by the Romans in 68, and they predates the rabbi. But what you can see is actually they're using the Shema here. When
but how does God teach?
Sorry, say it again.
How does God teach?
Through the mind of people.
So, directly into the mind.
Yeah. We say that the sechel, the intelligence we have, is a gift from God. And with this gift, we can understand the world.
I read yesterday that Judaism was the first religion.
Oh.
Now you're talking about the Dead Sea Scrolls being perhaps...
Okay, so when we talk about Judaism, we talk, it has evolved over the centuries. The biblical religion that you find in Torah wasn't rabbinic religion. So the rabbis came later, so they came when the temple was destroyed. And then they became the mainstream Judaism. Today, what we call Judaism is rabbinic Judaism, the kind of ways of being Jewish that the rabbis actually have imagined, according to an interpretation of the text. But in the time when this was written, when the temple was still standing, so the first century BC or CE, I don't know exactly when this text dates. But the rabbis are the descendant of the Pharisees, the scholars of the law. So the Pharisees became the rabbis at some point. But Qumran was independent from the temple circles and independent from that. So it was a very different type of... But they were Jewish, that's the thing. It's kind of like today you have Orthodox Jews and liberal Jews, but they're all rabbinic Jews. But there are different ways of being Jewish. So
was Jesus a rabbi?
So he's called Rabbi in the New Testament. At some point, I think my master. So I think he was... In the New Testament, the term rabbi is not the same as you understand rabbi today, someone with a smicha. Yeah, I know. Rabbi means, basically it means my master. It's recognizing someone who has knowledge. And Jesus obviously had lots of knowledge. I mean, when you see his interaction with the people, when he talks with the doctors of the law in the Temple of Jerusalem, he knows his stuff. Definitely knows his stuff. And he was definitely Jewish, so there's no, he was a Jewish boy, but he was a scholar, he was a scholar. Yeah.
So the very first rabbi.
So there's because if you look at the Pirkei Avot, the Pirkei Avot is a tractate in the Talmud that talks about ethics, about morality, and how to conduct your lives. They refer to scholars who lived in the 2nd century BCE as rabbis already. So there's it's very difficult to, we don't have many fixed elements to say this is when it started, because it's very old. We have people who were not called rabbi at that time, like the early ones were not called rabbi. They were sages, but there is a kind of intellectual family of thought that goes back into this group of people. Their characteristic is mainly they were not priests. Some of them were Kohanim or Leviim, but they were not priests. It wasn't priestly class. They didn't belong to the temple circle. They're not Sadducees, from the aristocratic families in Jerusalem. It's a very democratic movement because you could become a sage only by your knowledge. So anyone who had a brain that worked could actually become a sage. It was about Torah study.
But there must be somewhere the oldest document that was written by a rabbi.
Yes.
There must be. So that must be the first rabbi that we know of.
So you've got the people mentioned in the rabbinic literature, so the oldest, as I said, I think the 2nd century or the 1st century. I need to check exactly, I can't remember exactly the dates. Now the manuscript written document of an early rabbi, I don't know if we have them, to be honest. I don't know.
I thought one of the clearest ethics of Judaism is that the individual has a direct relationship with God. You don't have to go through anybody else. So where a rabbi is good for knowledge and learning and being a teacher, it's not necessary for following Judaism.
No, a rabbi is someone like today, someone who spends his life or her life studying Torah and having a bit more knowledge that people don't have the time to do it. But the rabbi is not the person who tells you how to conduct your life. So
can I just ask, and this is changing it in diversity, is I was brought up and we have reverence. Yeah. They weren't rabbis, and And I've never actually asked it, and somebody said, oh, it's a bit like a master's. They start their diploma, but they don't finish it. Is that because I grew up and they weren't rabbis? They were all reverends.
Yeah, so before coming to the UK, I never heard about that. So I guess it was a form of training. There were scholars, they knew their stuff, but being a rabbi is having a specific ceremony which is called the smicha, where you've got another rabbi who imposes the hands on your head and ordain you as a rabbi. Yeah. So reverend, it sounds very Christian, and I think it's because there's we live in a Christian world, so there's obviously things we take from the environment around us. Look at Jews living in the Middle East. They don't live like us because they grew up in a very different environment. The food is different, and the music.
Following on what Jackie said, my Bubba was the most religious person you could ever want to meet. Never went to shul. Never went to shul.
Well, mine was the same.
But she was constantly praying.
Mm-hmm.
And she never went to shul, to synagogue.
Mm.
But she was extremely, she was so religious. The local vicar used to ask to come in, and she would always welcome him.
Okay.
And she used to give him a cup of tea, and he used to ask her about Judaism.
Yeah.
And she would tell him, she was so knowledgeable. But the thing that struck me was that she never went to shul. But she insisted I went to shul.
Yeah, because women, in Orthodox Judaism, women are not obligated to go to shul.
Mm-hmm.
Their role is in the home.
Yes.
That's the most important. I had a brother, and I was brought up. My brother could go to university, could do this. The most important thing for me was to, get married, if you like, and bring up children. And that was very.
Yeah. That's a traditional way of understanding.
And that's why I'm now.
Yeah, no, I understand.
And I wanted my children brought up liberal.
Yeah, I understand that.
Fiddler on the roof too.
Hello.
Yeah.
Hello.
Hello.
It's all right. Well, what happened?
Hold on, let's.
I'm just late. I didn't have any excuse.
It's fine. It's okay. You know what, Sarah, you're here.
There we are. My excuse.
Barbara, come and dance. Next to René.
Is that yours?
I am.
So we're going into the Shema on page 135. So today it's a bit relaxed, so we don't need to stand unless you want to, but we can say all the prayers seated. So relax. I'm going to check with online so that I can read them properly. Oh, Celia, hello Celia, how are you? She's watching from Grenoble in France, or I don't know where you are now. She's a traveler, Celia, she's a friend of mine. She's a member of the Arc Synagogue, and she's also a member of the synagogue in Lyon, where I used to work. And she's also Israeli background, so she's got this kind of very interesting background. Yeah, she's British, French, and Israeli, or maybe something else. And Michelle, hello Michelle, and that's it. Do we have other people online? I can't see the other name. It's on my. Okay, it's fine. Anyway, if you're there, welcome. Barechu et Adonai Hamevorach Baruch Adonai Hamevorach Leolam Vaed. It's a bit weird to say this seated, right?
I felt uncomfortable.
Yeah, me too. Oh gosh, you know. Yeah, let's stand because it's kind of weird. Baruch Hu Sitil, yeah. Baruch Hu et Adonai HaMevorach. Baruch Adonai HaMevorach le'olam va'ed. Page 136. We praise you, Eternal One, our God, sovereign of the universe, maker of light and creator of darkness, author of peace and creator of all things. In your mercy, you give light to the earth and all who live on it, and in your goodness, you renew creation continually day by day. How manifold are your works, O God! With wisdom have you made them all. The world is full of your creations. Your handiwork proclaims your praise. The radiant stars bear witness to your glory. We praise you, O God, creator of light. Great is love for us, eternal God, that abundant your compassion. Our ancestors trusted in you, and you taught them the laws of life. So be gracious to us and teach us. Incline our hearts to hear your words, to know and understand, to learn and teach, and with love to uphold the truth of your Torah. Enlighten us with your teaching, make us faithful to your commandments, and wholehearted in the love and awe of your name. For in love you summon us to serve you and proclaim your unity. We praise you, God. In love you have called your people Israel to serve you. But your readiness of a true worshipper. Shema Yisrael, Adonai Eloheinu, Adonai Echad, Baruch Shem, Kevod Malchuto, Leolam Va'ed, Ve'ahavta et Adonai Elohecha, Bechol levavecha ובכל נפשך ובכל מאודיך, והיו הדברים האלה, אשר אנוכי מצווך היום על לבבך, ושיננתם לבניך ודיברת בם, בשבתך בביתך ובלכתך בדרך, ובשורבך ובקומך, וקשרתם מאוד על ידיך, והיו לטוטפות בין עיניך, וכתבתם על מזוזות ביתך ובשעריך. למען תזכרו ועשיתם את כל מצוותיי, והייתם קדושים לאלוהיכם. אני אדוני אלוהיכם, אשר הוצאתי אתכם מארץ מצרים, להיות לכם אלוהים. אני אדוני אלוהיכם.
Surrounded by songs.
Nice song.
Songs all over the place.
Good and beautiful and true, sound, established and enduring are these words now and forever. True it is, Eternal One, that you are sovereign God and Redeemer, as you were the God and Redeemer of ancestors. You are our Maker, the rock of our salvation. We have known you always as our helper and our liberator. There is no God but you. Truly you are first and you are last. We have no Redeemer but you. You redeemed us from Egypt and freed us from the house of bondage. Then with great joy Moses, Miriam, and all Israel together sang to you this song. מי כמוך באלים אדוני, מי כמוך נדע בקודש, נורא תהילות אוסף אלה. A new song, the redeemed, sung to your name at the shore of the sea. With one accord they gave thanks and proclaimed your sovereignty. Adonai imloch לעולם ועד, צור ישראל, קומה בעזרת ישראל, גואלנו אדוני צבאות שמו. we stand for the Amidah, I just wanted to remind you the Shema that we just read, it's a creation for the rabbis. We were talking about the rabbis earlier, so when they compiled the prayers, they took this passage from Deuteronomy, Shema Israel, because probably the most important, the call to listen carefully, and they embedded it, between blessings before and blessings after. And Baruch Atah Adonai, that's really the rabbinic stuff. So you Baruch Atah Adonai all the time. So it's kind of like Vayidbar Adonai and Moshe Lemor. These are the two most common sentences in Judaism. And the Amidah, which is completely rabbinic creation, is actually a set of 7 blessings on Shabbat, 7, and on weekdays, 19 blessings. So 7 blessings are 1, 2, and 3. Like the first one is Magen Avraham Vezrat Sarah, which we recite regardless of the day. And the second one is Baruch Atah Adonai Mechayeh HaMetim, a very interesting one because the Hebrew says, who brings dead back to life, which is a kind of interesting concept. And all the editors of prayer books have really struggled with this idea. But there was a deep belief in Pharisaic Judaism and early rabbis of a resurrection of the dead. So it's not originally a Christian idea, it came from Judaism. And of course, we're struggling with this idea. What does it mean, And this is why Orthodox Jews don't get cremated because of the resurrection of the dead. Even before Auschwitz, now of course there's another argument. Yeah, it's something we don't really think about, which is about this notion of resurrection of the dead being a Jewish idea.
Because God can come back and annoy everybody again.
Oh gosh, God forbid.
When we were teaching the GCSE here, on the first version of the GCSE we taught, we had a set text, one of which was the Amidah. And Helene and I, and then Barbara, we used to explain the blessing. It was a bit like a child coming and talking to their parents. You come in and say how wonderful you are, how much we love you. Then you give the list of things you'd like.
Yes.
And then you go, how much I love you and how wonderful you are.
Yeah.
And the 3 sections, and it's the section we don't say on Shabbat, is what I want. We just do the other 2 bits.
Because on Shabbat we don't request anything, absolutely. Yeah, I like that. It's a bit cheeky, right? So there's a kind of sense of negotiation.
And for teenagers, they could get
they're very late
of that.
Yes.
And it always sort of stays with me, that sort of analogy that we built up with them.
Yeah.
Hear the prayers like that.
Yeah, very good. Yes, yeah. So that's the first blessing. The third starts on Nekadesh et Shimcha, which is God's holiness. And again, you have different versions for this one. You've got a version of weekdays, evening, mornings, Shabbat afternoon, etc. And the middle one, Mekadesh HaShabbat, so the blessing for Shabbat, is actually in the weekday section replaced by 13 blessings where we ask different stuff.
And you can put in different blessings in there for different festivals and different events.
So it changes. And this one is the one that changes the most, the middle one. It changes. On Shabbat we have the morning version, the afternoon version, the evening version, and the Musaf. On Shabbat there's also an additional service which we don't do in little synagogues, additional service Musaf. There's 4 different versions of this Kedushat Hayom, the sanctity of the day. And then we go back to telling God how much we love Him. On page 144, Baruch Atah Adonai she'otecha levadecha be'ir'a na'avod. We worship you, only you, with reverence. Ir'at Hashem means, when you say the fear of heaven, sometimes you've got this expression. I can't find it. Yeah, the fear of heaven. Is it?
The fear of God.
The fear of God, yes. So it's not It's an interesting concept because it doesn't mean that I'm afraid of God.
It's like no.
Yes, or like awe. I think awe is probably better here than fear. It's kind of wow, if it's something so different. And of course, some have translated into, I'm afraid if I eat a sausage roll on Yom Kippur, God's going to kill me. But it doesn't work like this. We know that. But it's a very interesting concept because there's one passage in the Talmud that says that freedom comes when you really you have the fear of heaven, the awe of heaven in you, because it's kind of direct all your life. And then there's the last two, the hodahot, the blessing of thanks, source of goodness to my thanks are due, and the last one, the blessing of peace. So you see that it's kind of a journey, and I just wanted to spend one moment on page 140 and ask you a question. It starts with there's a connection. The Amidah starts with a connection with the ancestors. Why do you think they chose to start the Amidah like this instead of talking about God the Creator or God of the universe or
We are of our ancestors.
Sorry, say it again.
We are of our ancestors.
Yes.
Makes
Yeah.
it more personal.
Yeah. It's very exactly. Yes.
It's also the long-term connection.
Yes.
It's not just, us here, but it's that chain of tradition that we've, going all the way through, and a reminder of the covenant.
Yes, absolutely. So you're all absolutely right. It's kind of, again, we were talking about the pragmatism that you can find in Judaism. Again, there is this, hold on guys, before you're talking about peace in the universe, think about where we're coming from. I know there's this very powerful passage also in the Mishnah, Da me'ain ata, know where you are coming from. Which will be actually, we're going to have it on the new design, because we're going to have this passage in the Mishnah. Da me'ain ata ule'an ata holech. Know where you're coming from and where, or we've got another version, where you're going, or lifnemi ata omed, and before whom you are standing. It's a kind of it's this innate moment, here I am, here present. And of course we've got the fathers, the mothers, and in a traditional text they wouldn't mention the matriarchs, which I think it's a bit tricky because, if you don't have the whole mishpocha, there's no point. And in our Siddur we have Abraham and Sarah, Isaac and Rebecca, Jacob, Rachel and Leah, and in some Siddurim it actually add, because I think that they all had some concubines as well, and Jacob has actually 2 official wives and 2 concubines. Oh, you would have loved that. Oh, you missed it. You would have. You are actually a reincarnation of Jacob, I think. Yes.
My mother wasn't a concubine, because she's Rachel.
No, I'm not saying that all Rachel are concubine. No. In Torah, just in Torah. And Rachel was.
Actually, it's lovely when you say Rachel. It's really bit is really meaningful for me.
Yeah,
but no, she
absolutely.
wasn't a concubine.
She was a concubine.
No, Rachel wasn't a concubine in the Bible. Rachel was one of the wives.
Yes.
Bilhah and I can't remember the other.
Oh gosh. Oh dear. Hagar.
No, Hagar was Abraham's.
Oh yeah. Oh gosh.
Wow, your knowledge. That's all been
I have no Hebrew.
Now Shifra and Pua were the midwives of Pharaoh of during the time of Egypt. I can't remember now. No, because I was thinking of a plaque in a cemetery which I found online, and I found it so funny. So a guy who died, and Jeff, let's call him Jeff. Zilpa, yeah, thank you. Yeah. So the guy died, and on the plaque was written, the dates and beloved father, husband, and adulterer. And she added, yes, I knew it. I thought it's so funny. So funny. Poor guy, you know, he will be chased by that his entire life.
That's better than Spike Milligan's one.
Yes,
I know Spike Milligan.
No.
On his
He's
message,
comedian.
it said, I told you I was ill.
I don't.
No, I told you I was ill.
Should have had a divorce though.
Oh, now we know where you are. You know, I've also heard this somewhere. No, I mean, it's a good way to talk about death. It's, yeah,
Of course.
you know, we want to laugh. And,
Of course.
yeah. Okay, so so of course some of these blessings are very much about our connection with our ancestors. The second one is about life, and this is why John René has translated it as source of eternal life instead of who brings back the dead to life, which is the actual meaning of the Hebrew. But if you look at the meaning, you cause the wind to blow and the rain to fall, the sun to shine and the dew to descend. And that's this kind of we acknowledge that we're part of this universe that sustains us. Then in your love you sustain the living, in your compassion you grant us eternal life. You support the falling and heal the sick, you free the captive and keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. So what do you think of, what do you make of that? Do you think it's true? I mean,
it's the object of the National Health Service, isn't it?
Yes, absolutely.
If you've not seen the play Nye at the National Theatre and it's coming to cinemas, go and see that. Nye, it's a history of Nye Bevan, and it's about the history of the National Health, and it is absolutely stunning.
Really?
Yeah.
Really wonderful play, beautifully acted. Michael Sheen is amazing. Yeah.
It'll be the Olympic at Barnes then, I suppose.
Sorry?
It'll be the Olympic at Barnes, I guess.
Yeah. It's a National Theatre online. It is also just as it is.
But
You're talking about the origin of national health.
Yeah.
It's and he didn't want to be involved in religion, and he almost took that as a moral cause when he wasn't involved in religion. Was the founding of the national health.
But I've always believed that the body is the carrier of the soul, and the soul just carries on forever.
That's
and
a very strong.
Why it can always come back in another form, in another body.
That's a very strong belief in Judaism, and I've been in contact with death a lot in my rabbinic life, and there's something happening. I mean, it's difficult because nobody came back and say, "Yeah, guys, this is what's happening." But there's definitely something happening at the moment the soul leaves the body, and the body, becomes this shape, shell, and it's not there anymore. But yes. Sorry, let's not go there. Okay. No, it's too. Yeah. So let's go back to this. There's definitely this idea of the soul that is, going and coming back, and this is a very strong. And personally, I believe in that as well. From my experience, I very much believe in that. So you keep faith with those who sleep in the dust. It's kind of, you're going to come back. But I was more thinking about you support the falling and heal the sick, you free the captive. What do we make of our faith when this doesn't happen? When someone who is healed is not healed, when someone who is sick is not healed, when someone who is falling is not raised up. So what do you make of this faith? What do you think the rabbis put it in this passage?
For us to go out and reach out to them, which we do.
And free will. That, it's that thing of, there is enough food for all, if only we can share it appropriately.
Yeah, absolutely.
You don't only free will.
Huh?
You can free Rob, you can free George, you can free...
Yeah. Yeah, you can also free Sarah, Rachel, Rebecca and Leah.
But I like what you're saying, because it's as I read it, it's the prayers that we say on Shabbat, they represent a kind of ideal, and we know that the world is far from being ideal. I mean, it's tough to be on this planet, right? It's it's kind of, why does it have to be so difficult? And when you go back there and you say, yeah, because this exists, this is real, and it's my job to do. It's my job to grant eternal life. I can't do that because I don't have eternal life myself, so it's really God's problem, it's not mine. But feeling love, compassion, reaching out to the others, helping out is what we all have to do.
But if we didn't belong to a community, whether it be a church or whatever, would we, if we run our own at home, would we still reach out? Would I still phone people or go and visit people? Because I don't really know these people.
Yes.
So that is, I feel, I belong to a synagogue or wherever, a community.
Because we have two nature. We have an individual person we are, and we have a social nature, the social person. We belong to a group, and this is why it's so hard when there are some people who are really lonely out there. People who have, very often it's elderly people or people who are sick, isolated, home, no family, they don't belong to anything, and they're alone. And this is so hard.
When I've read this before, it's made me kind of cross, because I think God doesn't do these things.
Interesting.
And I hadn't taken it as being a request for you as an individual to go and do this. I thought it's all up to God, but that's ridiculous,
Yeah. Very good point. I like the fact that it made you cross. I think that means a great engagement with this text is brilliant. Philip.
You can be in a community one day a week and lonely 6 days a week.
That's true as well. Absolutely.
If you look around the membership and the people you will recognise it.
Yeah.
Even if they come to shore.
Yeah.
Some people want to be on their own, don't want to take part. Over the years, we've run people. I'm all right. I don't need.
Yeah.
Okay. Do you want the rabbi? No, I'm fine.
There's so far you can go with people, right?
Yes.
You can't force.
No.
You can't force. But these people are under our radar. We know and keep an eye on them. But it's that I love this. I think on Pesach we talk about this guy Nachshon ben Aminadab, the one who walked into the sea, and then the sea opened. The kind of, and God said, make the first steps towards me and make a step towards you. But this is relationship, right? It's kind of we need to make a step. Give me something, open up a bit for me, and then I will open up to you. We need to do that. And so talking about loneliness, I think it's a very important point, because it's, when I think about these lonely people, it's kind of, we had interestingly, during COVID, you remember there was a big thing organized by Citizens UK about South London Listen. So they held talks all over the South London region, talking about people, what's important to you now. And so there was a question of the kids, kids with COVID, being isolated at home at the moment. They need so much to be socialized, and I think we still
We're still seeing it.
Yeah, we're still seeing it.
In schools, it is such a significant issue of those children who were coming into school who haven't got the social interaction.
Yes.
I mean, it was the September when the children were back in school, and I was in secondary school, and I watched the children in the playground. They were still in their bubbles and everything, but the children were sat next to each other, communicating on their phones because they had lost the skill to do it face to face, and they felt safer communicating by texting each other, even though they were next to each other. And we're still seeing that.
Yeah,
in schools.
absolutely. Yeah.
And also with the parents, particularly the generation and class of children, that age group where they were born during COVID, and the mothers were so isolated at the time of birth, and the impact on the family and the children is something we are going to see as a trauma. And I mean, I'm using the word really carefully throughout both those mothers' lives and the children. And I mean, I'm not having so much contact with the fathers, but I wonder how much they were also traumatised by it.
Absolutely. Oh yeah, absolutely. Because we are social animals, we need each other. And when you cut off from the community or from social interaction, it's so difficult. You can choose to isolate yourself, and I do this sometimes. Sometimes I go into my room and read a book, but it's my choice. It's different from being isolated because you can't do anything anymore. Yeah.
It's amazing to see on the news items how often now mental health is brought up as being, so affecting the population at the moment.
Yeah.
Right the way through from young kids right the way through to the elderly.
Yeah.
And they reckon that, it's something like 30% of people are affected in some way by poor mental health.
Absolutely. And the country is not ready to deal with that. That's the thing, we don't have the resources to deal with that. They rely very much on communities to do part of this work, which I'm very happy for us to take this on. But and also, there was again the war in Ukraine. There's some very heavy stuff going around us, which are very heavy. There was also, the crisis, the price crisis. We apparently we're a bit out now, but I never seen prices going down. Actually, to be honest, they go up and then oops, they stay up.
So on a more positive note, I don't know how anybody else felt during COVID, but for me, the synagogue and the live stream was absolute lifesaver.
Well, for me, it was a terrible time. It was the best.
Without that contact each week.
Yes.
But what was amazing, I think we were one of the first synagogues.
Yeah. Oh yes. I remember very well the first Friday evening. I had my little computer.
Yes.
Here on this lectern actually, and leading a. It was so weird. I remember the high holidays one year, because we did 2 high holidays during COVID, and one of them I was here with Rebecca Wedell, and it felt, oh gosh, so weird to know that we had over 100 and something people online, and the synagogue completely empty.
However, you've lost me, because on Friday night, which is usually the end of the week, I'm tired, and I think, I don't need to go to synagogue tonight. So every Friday I sit down with my milk and I light the candles. And unfortunately, because they're Zoom, rather than come.
It's okay.
But you still can connect.
Oh yeah.
And in a way that actually, for some day on a Friday night, I just wouldn't have got here.
Yeah,
I know.
I think it's
at least
still,
you can connect.
And she can still be rude to me.
And I can still be rude to you.
I won't be rude to you. I don't. You just ignore me when I'm rude. You listen.
They're older than you, darling. Respect.
I thought it was fair.
Right. Okay. So I've got I've got a text I'd like to study with you.
I thought we've done it.
Yeah, I just wanted to.
He just wants to.
Do you want to pray?
No,
So go in my office where you can
we've
pray.
prayed and we've done it.
How often pray?
Gosh,
I know.
We've got to give it grief.
We want it. Yeah, go on. Go
Do you want
carry
to
on.
pray?
Yeah, no. What you've prepared.
Yes.
Yeah, it'd be rude if you prepared it. Oh yeah, we've got to try and pretend to enjoy it and listen to it.
No wonder this is.
It's not going to be I'll be asked You wouldn't get away with it.
I can't
You just turn the page, Julie.
No, it's blank.
Well,
There's no help.
Well, that
They're all
sounds
lined up at
heavy.
the back.
Ooh.
There's nothing on the
it's
back.
really heavy.
Oh.
Yes, I love heavy texts
Yeah.
because they are really complicated and really shocking. So online, if you have a Chumash with you, it's Leviticus chapter 24, verses 10 to 16. Leviticus 24, 10 to 16. Right, it's only 6 verses, but there's so much there. Who wants to read it for us?
I can read it.
Yeah?
There came out among the Israelites a man whose mother was Israelite and whose father was Egyptian. And a fight broke out in the camp between that half Israelite and a certain Israelite. The son of the Israelite woman pronounced the name in blasphemy, and he was brought to Moses. Now his mother's name was Shelamith, daughter of Dibri of the tribe of Dan, and he was placed in custody until the decision of God should be made clear to them. And God spoke to Moses, saying, "Take the blasphemer outside the camp, and let all who were within hearing lay their hands upon his head, and let the community leadership stone him. And to the Israelite people speak thus, anyone who blasphemes God shall bear the guilt, and one who also pronounces the name of God shall be put to death." Oh, we did that. That's done. The community leadership shall stone that, I'm not having this, stone that person, stranger or citizen, having thus pronounced the name, shall be put to death.
That's it.
No, the F word doesn't count as blasphemy.
That's horrible.
That's horrible.
And
Yes.
people study this
Yes.
and take it as read.
So that's exactly the problem with sacred texts, is how do you read them? Of course, if you have someone who says, bloody God, then you take out and you stone. So let's go into the text and see what's behind it. So, yes. So I'm prepared about Torah for tonight. I'm just going to frame the discussions because I think there's something about boundaries in the Jewish community. This is something we also always asking ourselves. Who is the other? Who is the one who is out? And how do we define who is in and who is out? It's not an easy thing to say. It's not an easy thing to set either. But any group sets its own boundaries. Any group does that. So you've got some groups who have a very strict sense of boundaries, like probably if you go to the Haredi in Stamford Hill, the set of boundaries is really, really strict. And you have other groups who include, some values like inclusion, diversity, like progressive Judaism. But we do have boundaries. It's not like, you've got, it's going to be controversial a bit, but self-identification works to a certain extent, and it's the dynamic between oneself, how we feel about ourselves, and there's a sense of validation as well by the group. The group validates you as you are. So that's a very important point. So, on its surface, the story is not really complex, and the first reaction you had sounds like, yes. No, God tells the people that everyone who heard his blasphemy is to take the man outside the camp and stone him to death. End of story. It's very clear. You blasphemed, you are put to death. But there is a Mishnah, and this is why I'm going to bring this before we open the conversation. You probably know that text from the Talmud. The Sanhedrin, rabbinic court that executes a transgressor once in 7 years is characterized as destructive. How do you understand that?
That you actually, the death penalties are there, but you should not be putting. And I know that there were all sorts of rules about, that's why you have a bet that is 3, so that you have to have a positive decision. And it has to be conscious. For an offence, it has to be conscious. I'm trying to remember. And deliberate, and you have to be warned that it is an offence. Yes. And I know, so when Eichmann was, I know that's a jump, was put on trial in Israel, that there were people who had to prove that he had been told that to kill all the Jews was wrong, in order for the Jewish court to put the death penalty in.
Yeah, absolutely. So I'm going to give you an example of the adulterer and adulteress.
Adulteress.
Yeah, so that's prohibition. Sorry, Philip. Sorry, son. And so they're both to be put to death, right? And stoned to death, which is kind of really, really ugly. But the rabbi said, sorry? Sorry.
Ladies first.
Ladies first, of course. Because it's their fault, we know. It's the fault of the temptress.
The Tudor courts, it was ladies first, because the man should see what he had done.
It's lovely. Don't worry. Oh. Okay, let's. So they shall be put to death, but there are some very strict criteria to do that. We need 2 witnesses, independent, catching them doing the act, and telling them that it's an offense and they shouldn't do that. So the chance of this to happen is
very small.
Yeah. So, in other words, the rabbis didn't like the death penalty at all. They didn't like death penalty at all. And there's already something about that. If you look at verse 14, take the blasphemer outside the camp and let all who were within hearing, let the community leadership lay their hands upon his head. Well, what does it represent? Do you remember when we talk about this gesture, laying the hand there?
As a community as well.
Yes.
It's giving a blessing.
Oh, interesting. So that's something we do for blessing. But I'm thinking specifically of one festival where there's a ritual which we don't perform anymore, but a ritual where we take an animal, we lay Yom Kippur.
And the scapegoat.
Yes. So it's a kind of, there's a direct contact. So the person who has blasphemed, they need first to have heard it, and by doing that, they're condemning it. So there's no, again, think about what the implications. Like this passage in Deuteronomy, the Ben Sorer, the child who is, what's the word again? A naughty child, I can't remember exactly, the one who doesn't obey his parents.
That's a lot, and parents are responsible.
Yeah, parents are responsible, and they are the first to throw the stone.
Yes.
So there's a sense of responsibility, right?
If I took you to the Christian New Testament, which as being a convert always kind of go back to this, the first Christian martyr was Stephen.
Yes.
Who was taken outside the community, by the community, taken outside their area, and then they all lifted stones to stone him. He wasn't, his parents hadn't controlled him enough from following Jesus and becoming a disciple. Therefore, the community took him, and he was going against the Jewish law. He was putting another God in front of God, as it were. And that's why he was stoned. And this, somebody must have read this when they were doing the New Testament. Had to be a Jew.
You're absolutely right. The story of Stephen is actually, it's right.
And his parents couldn't control him, which was where it started. And they obviously had gone to his parents and said, this is what he's doing, even though he's a grown man. And because they didn't do something about it, the community there said, come on, we're not having this. He's shaming our community.
Couldn't the parents be punished?
No, the parents weren't punished. The
Well,
parents'
they were.
punishment were that they had to take him and agree with the community that they hadn't looked after him properly, and therefore they would be part of the stoning.
It was brutal.
Yeah, but imagine if we, if the police came to us and said, your son's done that, you've got to do this, this and this, because you're responsible for it.
That's what's happened just in America.
Yeah,
isn't it?
with
the new
the-
law, the
with
new, the kid, the
with-
gun.
Yeah, of course,
The first one,
yeah,
they've
absolutely.
arrested the parents, so that's it, to bring that up to
So
modern.
it's not dead, this, is it?
I mean,
It's not.
it's an interesting point because if you think about, I raised my kids at a time where the access to not smartphones, mobile phone was when they were teenagers, all right? Today, kids are literally born with that. There's the society around, and some parents are just lost,
Yeah.
you know?
You can't
And
blame them.
it's very difficult. Of course, there's a parent's responsibility, and
It's difficult.
it's so important, but oh my God, it's hard to raise a child nowadays, huh?
With the
Or maybe I'm too old and I just the
No,
prospect
no,
of raising
no.
a child.
My daughter as well, Ruth. Yeah.
very hard to control.
All her, 6. He came home and said, "Can I have a phone, Mum?" I said,
Yeah.
"No." But everyone else.
Yeah.
It's awful.
So my daughters had the first mobile phone, this kind of, really used only to call.
Yeah.
In the 13, 14, yes. And I could hear them giggling all night in their room.
76%, figures that came out this week, 76% of 3 to 7-year-olds have access to a phone or a tablet. So they can contact their parents.
Yes.
Access, yeah.
No, but regular access of one which they regard as theirs.
Okay.
76%.
When you have a naughty child, you put an iPad in front of your child, and the iPad does your work, right? So it's very difficult. It's kind of
But what I was thinking, what's interesting with René was the murder of Brianna Jai, the trans girl who was murdered by two other children. In both cases, the people who called the police and said, we think that we know who the murderer is because it's our child, were parents. So for both the murderers, the parents were the people
called.
called the police because
Oh, can you imagine? I mean, first was
Call the
poor
police.
person, but they called the police.
in both cases,
In both
which is which is extraordinary.
It's amazing.
Correct, though, isn't it?
Because they were evidence and everything. Yeah, it was,
Wow.
and I find that I find that fascinating.
Which country was it?
They did,
In the UK.
Oh yes,
Oh, gosh.
It was this year.
this year. But Brian, so I'm trying to think where in the country they were. In the Midlands somewhere, I think.
I hope all these things happen in the Midlands.
I mean it's
Oh.
and
I mean, it's a bit scary because, as a parent, you want to not control, but you want to know what's happening in your child's life. But they have access to a world, that we don't even understand.
Yeah, but all you can do at the end of the day, you cannot control them. They have got their phones.
Yeah.
You've just got to somehow, face to face, teach them what's right and wrong.
I think you do this at school.
What they
right?
do. Yeah, but it's not. It shouldn't come from school. It shouldn't come from school. School will help, but you mustn't rely on school.
No.
That's what's happening today.
Yeah.
Oh, they go to school, they learn it there. And Paul and I never did.
Yeah.
The school encouraged and helped them and gave them their education. But the strength and the bringing up of a child, I'm sorry, comes from home.
But I was a teacher. I started to teach Oh my God, I'm not going to say how long it was. Long time ago.
René, I've done 38 years in the classroom.
Oh yeah, so I started in 1990, so it was 34. Yeah.
I started.
Yeah, but I stopped.
I started my teacher training in '86.
Okay, so yeah, we're the same generation. But I remember an argument with parents once, the teacher-parents meetings, where I was telling the parents that the child swore at me, and they said, "I don't care, it's your job." I said, No, because if I look into this kid, I'm gonna snap his face. Of course, you can't do this anymore. But gosh, I did it once. Oh God, it was really, really good, a good feeling. But I ended up in the.
I think that's part of the problem today, in my opinion, with schools is some of the parents who can't control their kids say, "Well, that's all right. Teachers could do it. I won't bother." Society's wrong.
Teachers look at it the other way as well. We may be able to control the children most of the time, but it's the parents who have the problems.
Parents
Yes, you're right, yeah.
That really hard work, really hard. Okay, I think we're going a bit away from this new blasphemer. How do you pronounce blasphemer? Blasphemer, okay. So I found a midrash which tried to explain, how we can actually understand the harshness and what's behind it. So there is a midrash, this rabbinic story that explores this man's lineage in detail, explaining how his parents' history helps us understand the crime. So there is a midrash that says that this man, the Ben Isha Israelit vehu Ben Ish Mitzri, the one of a daughter of Israel and a son of His mother was Jewish and his father was Egyptian. So one midrash explained that actually it was this Egyptian, the father. Are you following me? Because I'm not sure if I'm following myself. So the father of this guy was actually the Egyptian that Moses had killed in Egypt. Interesting. And because the blasphemer's father was not an Israelite, he had no share in the land, because remember in the Bible, lineage comes from the father and not the mother. And he had no place in the camp. Despite having reasonable cause for feeling alienated from the Israelite community, one sage claims that he chose to convert by immersing the mikveh and have a brit milah. So it was the whole idea of, he was someone from outside. He wanted to be part of a tribe, he converted. However, he still finds himself outside of the community when they insist on his lineage. And I think where they want to go is how sometimes, not our community, but sometimes communities treat the converts. Community treats the one who is from outside. Whatever you do, you will never be able to be part of it. And you can see that, in some, and sometimes you hear that, she's a convert, like, there's something wrong with this person in the end.
Well, Barbara started your comment by saying, as a convert. Yeah, because once you're a convert, you're always a convert. You've left something behind you. But it's still part of you.
It's still part of you,
Yeah,
of course.
Well, we need people who are actually converted,
Yes.
But it's still always there. When I go home, it's all arising, I went to Belfast recently and I thought, are they supporting the Palestinians or the Jews? I think I showed some of you the photo. We drove through the Protestant area so they could show me all the Magen Davids up, all the flags were up with the Union Jacks. But they wouldn't take me into the Catholic area, into the Falls Road, which is just literally walking across the road, from where we were. But you could see the Palestinian flag and the tricolour, because they don't claim to be British, the Catholics in the north. So, there was the big division, and that's still there. And I said, so where are you going to put me in the middle of the road? What are you going to do? But
it's very interesting.
It's still there every time I go home. It is still there.
Yeah.
But here, we've got a community.
Yeah.
And in my area, which to me is my other community. You see, this is my community. And I try to do what you do here, and help people. But when I go to my home in
So are you Protestant Irish or Catholic Irish?
I was Protestant.
Protestant Irish,
yeah.
okay.
But when I'm in my own home, like where I live in Malton Manor, I have Jews, Koreans, Muslims. We're all together. I mean, we've about 3 different types of Hindus. We've 2 or 3 types of Muslims. We've got Sikhs. We've got everything. I mean, just in one street, 32 houses.
Yeah.
We've got loads. But that's my community when it comes to as much as this is.
Mm-hmm.
If somebody dies or something goes wrong, you're trying to serve that community or be part of that.
Because I think, you can't turn the back on where you're coming from,
or where you live.
But you made you've a fully fledged Jewish woman, absolutely, who has a different background. Because today,
I never feel Jewish, but I still want to be part of it, and I still come. But you never really feel truly Jewish. I think you need to marry a Jew as a convert, and you have another Jewish family around
That's
you.
interesting.
If you're
So okay, so let's dwell on this a moment, because why do you never feel entirely Jewish?
I could never talk to the kids. I always left that to Sarah about Holocaust and things, because it's not the same coming from a Christian background.
I think it's better, in my opinion, better coming from you than a Jew.
Yeah, the statistics of it were there. I did the history bits of it, the actual factual bits. But all this kind of went over there. Because it didn't seem right from my background to be.
But when you embrace Judaism, you embrace the religion, the values, but also the history.
Yeah.
And for the anti-Semites, they absolutely don't care about your background. For them, you're Jewish. So that's a very interesting point,
Yeah, I know they
look, Hitler was, ruled Germany where most Jews were liberal Jews. He didn't care at all about the background.
Or if you were half Jewish or converted,
Yes,
you were
they
Jewish.
didn't care. And all Jews today, all members of the Jewish community, wherever they come from, are Jews by choice. Because the number of Jews who live outside, who declare maybe, the census that they are Jewish, but they have no connection. Judaism is not in the genes. Judaism is not in the blood. Judaism is the culture, the way you live, the way you, the way you pray, the way you.
Well, that's the I'm trying to prove that who I am as a Jew or what I am.
You don't have to. You don't have to prove it.
To my neighbours.
Well, do you have to? It's just within you.
You made the choice, right? You're an adult person who made the choice, and yes, a long time ago. So you probably live more as a Jew than as a Irish Protestant. So, how were you when you were?
I was about 13 years converted. I think I did more.
Yeah. Okay. So
20.
yeah.
I took a lot because I was married, I had children. I had all that to consider, and I just took my time, and I didn't want to convert to Judaism and then think later, oh no, I want to be Christian still.
Yeah.
There's a big difference. Worship was the hardest one, not the actual, all the other bits.
Thank you for being open about that. No, because that's very interesting. That exactly the point of this text, because this man who cursed God was actually pissed off with God. Because the leader of the people to which he tried to be part actually killed his dad, according to the Midrash. The tribe is actually not, even though he's half of party of the tribe, they don't really accept him. So basically what they say is, of course, he cursed, but the community is responsible for that. The community is responsible for the way we welcome people. And I'm going to finish with another. I love Midrashim. I love stories, that. There's one Midrash that says that at Mount Sinai, when God revealed Torah to all Jews were there, people of the time, people to be born, and all the Jewish souls, even people who were not, if you convert to Judaism because you have a Jewish soul, it's your soul coming back into the world, and then you're drawn back to Judaism. So what the Midrash says, because once we have an explanation why people want to become Jewish, I mean, it's a bit mad, right? Especially now.
I don't understand why anyone wants to become Jewish, sorry. I mean,
Unless you've got a Jewish soul in you that drives you there. It's like, all the people have, and for the past, how many years I've accompanied lots of people, they all say the same, it's going back home. And they can't really explain that. It's very difficult to explain.
I had a Puritan grandma.
Yeah?
And the Puritan grandma was just like a Jew.
But I being born a Jew, I still can't say.
Yeah.
In some ways, I wish I wasn't Jewish and converted, because then it's something I'll make the effort I want to. But I was born into it. This is what you are. You don't question. And it wasn't until I came here.
But you made the choice to be part of a Jewish community. You made the choice to.
We're all Jews of choice, because actually we have our choice.
Yeah.
We walk away. We do not get involved. We don't.
People don't need to be Jewish. 150 years ago.
Jewish, or you can be Jewish involved.
No, but unfortunately, growing up, I was Jewish. That's it. That's your religion.
Yeah.
Stay with it.
Okay, guys, it's come. René will come for the Kiddush. Let's do the Kaddish. Because we need to say the Kaddish.
Sorry. Yeah.
No, it's fine. I didn't look at the
very fascinating.
Yeah, I mean, sometimes I like that. I like the.
We didn't start till we got here.
You missed it.
It was very, very interesting.
I was actually cursing you, Philip.
I'm going to get stoned later.
Oh gosh. Okay, so on this Shabbat we remember Abraham Solomons, the father of Mike Solomons, Joseph Pfeiffer, the father of Michael Pfeiffer, Dina Grossman, the mother of Anne Siegel, and Katie Wolf, the mother of Mark Wolf. Is there any other name you would like to? Yeah.
3 hostages and
Yes.
the soldier, apparently, Shimon said.
Yes, yeah. So there are 3 hostages that they found their body in Gaza.
Did you hear the father on today's program this morning?
No.
The father and the daughter, 26-year-old girl, was killed, and he was talking. And really, you should just listen. Go and hear it on iPlayer, because I can't repeat the words he said. But this long interview, they gave him probably 10 past 8, probably gave him 20 minutes. And he talked about his daughter and how he felt. And before it happened, he believed that Palestine should be given freedom and rights. Now he doesn't. That's enough.
Yeah. Anyway, it's
Brilliant man.
Yeah.
Not
Okay.
His favourite parts.
Oh,
It's good to
okay.
hear the BBC showing that side as well, for once.
So we're on page 524. We'll ask you to stand, please. 524. 524 for the Kaddish.
Yeah, I was on 542.
You said 542.
I said 542. I think I need some time off again. Huh? Yeah. Oh, there's another Kaddish actually on 542. Yes, yeah. But it's not the same. Yeah. It's a bit shorter. Do you want? Okay, let's say together the Kaddish for all the people we have mentioned today. Yitgadal v'yitkadash shemei Rabba, be'alma divarach yirutei v'yamlich malchutei, b'chayechon u'vyomechon, u'v'chaye dechol beit Yisrael, ba'agala u'bizman kariv ve'imru amen. Yehei shemei Rabba mevarach le'alam le'almei almaya, יתבחר וישתבר ויתפאר ויתרומם ויתנשא ויתהדר ויתעלה ויתהלל שמי לקודשה ברכו לעילה מן כל ברכתה ושירתה תושבחתה ונחמתה דאמירן בעלמה ואמרו אמן. יהי שלמה רבה מן שמיה וחיים עלינו ועל כל ישראל ואמרו אמן. עושה שלום במרומיו הוא יעשה שלום עלינו ועל כל ישראל ועל כל בני אדם ואמרו אמן. Okay, Shabbat Shalom. Shabbat Shalom. Thank you for coming online. Today we're going to go into the energy hall. You can keep, if you want to keep it, you can keep it. It's going to be recycled otherwise. I mean, it's fine, recycled.